Natural disasters are inevitable. Their effects are compounded by very human factors. Prior to the earthquake, Haiti's impoverished population was highly concentrated in urban slums. Dependent on imported food, local agriculture was in crisis. How did the country get that way? Answering the question is not a TV-friendly task. It encompasses a history of domestic and foreign policies, from trade to aid to war and dictatorship. In the 18th century, Haiti was the richest colony in the New World. In 1804, legendary generals Toussaint Louverture and Jean-Jacques Dessalines led a slave revolt, and Haiti won independence from France. It became the world's first black republic.
Haitian Revolution was at once anti-racist, anti-slavery, anti-colonialist, and anti-imperialist. They were opening up to the world, freedom for everybody.
The response from power came quickly. Under threat of invasion, Haiti agreed to pay France compensation for the loss of its property. That debt took 120 years to repay and launched a cycle of debt, dependence, and instability that continues to this day. That instability was on display in the streets of Haiti in April. The world's airwaves were flooded with pictures of rioting. The global food crisis was claiming lives. But was it just hunger that fueled those riots? 10 days after the protests began, a group of Haitian politicians realized their long-standing plan to oust the prime minister, a key ally of President René Préval.
I think what happened in April was the exploitation of that situation by people who were well organized.
The violence I saw at least the result of. There is something more. There is political manipulation.
And one of the objectives was fulfilled, which was to get rid of Mr. Alexis as Prime Minister.
But probably those manipulating the people that was their goal, get Alexis' head.
In that sense, it was a success.
I don't know, but I have such a feeling.
So who did it? Who organized it? Who benefits from that?
The politicians, the senators, who more than anything resented the fact that Mr. Alexis looked like a potential candidate to be president in 2011.
In Haiti, the stories of politics, rice, and the United States are deeply interwoven. In 1990, Jean-Bertrand Aristide rode to victory on a wave of social movements, bringing an end to decades of dictatorship and bringing hope to Haiti's impoverished majority. But the elites who had run Haiti for so long did not go quietly. Aristide's government was toppled by a military coup just 7 months later. Violence engulfed the country as his supporters were killed in the thousands. Three years later, the U.S. used its military muscle to bring Aristide back to power, but not before he committed to a program of sweeping economic change, closely monitored by the World Bank and International Monetary Fund. It was a familiar cocktail: downsizing, privatization, and deregulation. Tariffs on foreign rice were slashed from 50% to 3%. Imports flooded in.
25 years ago, Haiti grew a lot of rice. So much that the idea of importing rice from another country like the United States was virtually unthinkable. Today, this country of fewer than 10 million people is the third largest importer of U.S. rice in the world. 75% of all the rice eaten here in Haiti is shipped in from the United States. Now, that may be great news if you're a rice farmer in Arkansas or Missouri, but it's been devastating to farmers here in the Artibonite Valley. This used to be Haiti's rice bowl. And now Haiti is utterly dependent on imported food of all kinds. And that means the entire country is vulnerable to mood swings in the global market. So when the price of rice doubled in the last year, the majority of Haitians who live in bitter poverty got slammed. Now, Americans are also facing skyrocketing food prices, and it's an election year. But they're living in a country where Congress just passed a farm bill with hundreds of millions of dollars in subsidies for the American rice industry.
The global spike in food prices means that local rice, already unable to compete with the flood of cheap U.S. imports, is now utterly unaffordable. And farmers here, hurled into the global market with virtually no trade protection, are also now facing high prices for things like fertilizer. In the markets of Haiti's capital, Port-au-Prince, it's almost impossible to find rice grown by the farmers of the Artibonite. U.S. rice, on the other hand, is everywhere. But the high price is just as devastating in the city. And it's not just farmers arriving in the cities. The rural crisis has sent a flood of children to urban areas to fend for themselves or work as domestic servants. Many of them end up in orphanages like this one. And the U.S. is here too. The United States Agency for International Development, USAID, provides the rice for this lunchtime meal. It's just a small bite of the tens of millions of dollars worth of aid that USAID sends to Haiti every year. Most of it is in the form of food that must be bought from U.S. farmers and sent on U.S. ships. An estimated 50% of the value of the aid goes straight back into American hands. Even as it feeds hungry children in Haiti today, U.S. aid comes with ideology attached.
In order to be self-sufficient, you pretty much have to build up probably protective walls. And our experience as the United States is we actually, our international economic policy is about breaking down protective walls and binding nations more into an international trading relationships.
Are we going to be eternal beggars? But I don't think USAID is aiding us at all, but not by giving us food.
Patrick Elie was Minister of Defense during Aristide's first presidency. He's seen firsthand how U.S. policy has transformed the local landscape.
Right.
It all started with the disruption of rice production through the subsidized rice of North Carolina and Louisiana. Okay? And I believe from the number I read recently, they are subsidized to the tune of 41%, which is a lot, How are you going to ask a Haitian peasant to face that kind of competition?
Washington may export the rhetoric of free trade, but policy inside the U.S. is shaped by forces far less lofty.
The agricultural community have had a lot of friends in the Congress of the United States, and many of them fighting to improve the economic situation in their own states and their own communities. But some people would say, and I probably would say also, that the subsidies got out of hand, and that many of those subsidies made a lot of people very, very rich.
Today, the interests of Haiti's majority have never needed more defending. In the months to come, there will be hundreds of millions of dollars in aid and reconstruction, and endless promises from rich countries to build back better. But there will also be a struggle over what better looks like, whether Haitians will lead that process, and whether it will benefit the majority and not just the few. The first signs from the international community have been mixed. Just 6 months ago, Haiti finally had most of its international debt canceled. 2 days after the earthquake, the International Monetary Fund rushed in with an offer of $100 million in loans. Initially, this will drive Haiti's debt back up.
If Haiti's agricultural sector had still been functioning up to the time of the disaster, how would things be different now in the midst of disaster?
You would not have 3 million people in Port-au-Prince. Haiti had a vibrant agricultural sector. People were able to thrive on their farms. You had, remember, Haiti was a producer of sugarcane, of bananas. You had other things, you know, gold, bauxite back in the day in Haiti. Haiti, though, is known for being a fertile land, and yet many people were pushed off that fertile land because of policies of international financial institutions. And so when we look at why you have 3 million people in Port-au-Prince today, it's because they were pushed off their farms by these policies dictated often by outsiders.